What up, what up, everybody? This is your boy Paul, checking in men's health and well-being guide, facilitator, author of Heal.Thy.Man Method. If you have yet to have a copy, pick one up. Damn it. I'll leave all that stuff in the show notes for you. This episode right here, this is titled "Prisoner." I'm a prisoner of my past. And this is for my guys out here. This one specifically, I wanted to really focus in on some of the things that I've experienced going through co-parenting scenarios. And it was something that came up for me that actually had to come from a bit of pain that I got to really settle into. So I'm going to go over that today, and it really how this all came about is I found myself accusing others of judging me based on my past behavior. After I sat with that for a bit, I recognized the only one that's really judging me for the past behavior is me. I was keeping myself in this prison. It came to this realization after I was holding, I had a scenario where I had an engagement with some people, and it really sparked some things in me where I was holding a lot, and it had me question how I'm showing up and who I am. And that was a hard part of this whole scenario for me. And I recognize, I'm like, dang, man, they're really not the ones that are judging me. I'm judging myself, and I'm holding myself in this prison, a la a prison. I'm a prisoner of my past. So how many of us still are punishing ourselves for past mistakes and behaviors or moments we wish we could change? I know from the men I work with, I know there's a good amount of us out there that have said the statement, hey, I wish I could have done this. I wish I should have, could have, would have. So if we don't recognize how we hold ourselves hostage to our past, we can easily get stuck in a cycle of guilt and shame and self-sabotage, which is something I recognize, looking back on it, that's been a lot of my space. I have these encounters and I'd be wrecked and I do stupid stuff, whether it was drinking too much or smoking too much or just beat myself up because I wanted to feel like that crap. In reality, that was a prison that I've been creating for myself. Now, the thing that really blossomed and opened up that I'm going to get into today is that true freedom isn't found in somebody recognizing hey, I'm not that person from the past. It comes from me recognizing that first. And then I'll begin to see that shift in other people. Now, in this podcast, in this live session, I'm going to go over some of the ways that we imprison ourselves. And I'm speaking from experience. So when I was writing this out, when I was playing this, I was like, yeah, this is how I've done it. This is another way. And then we're going to go into the hidden ways that self-judgment can keep us stuck. And then, of course, we're going to talk about how we unlock the gates, man, let ourselves out of our prison. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk first about how we become prisoners of our past. Now, I mentioned before, I had made this call. I wish that they wouldn't judge me based on the past. I keep saying, hey, why don't you live in the present and future? The thing that was really important for me is as I got time to sit back on the whole engagement or interaction, started to recognize, I'm like, yo, hold up, dang, I'm failing to do this for myself, right? So I'm assuming these other people are still judging me, but my friends, what it was I'm the one that's keeping the past alive. So I would constantly think, well, they're going to remember this, or why do they keep harping on that? Because there's a part of me that never let that part go. So the thing that comes up for this is and I see this in men that I've mentored, that I've coached, is that they can be locked and shackled by something that they did, and it will drive behaviors going forward in a way that's usually toxic or going to end that usually is in a way that's going to disrupt or break them down. So when speaking for myself and also just from my experience of working with men, when we hold on to these old identities, it stops us from fully stepping into who we're becoming. And I had a quick post about what happens when we're on an upward trajectory, when we're ascending. when we're getting to the height of that next level, there's going to be our old thoughts are going to be the ones that are going to be the strongest at that time. So when we're in that place of like what it becomes how we keep ourselves prisoners, we start to sabotage ourselves. So again, it's holding on to the old identity, but then it's also holding on to guilt, shame, regret. And all those things are going to block your energy, block anything that's meant to come to you. Because in reality, there's a part of you that feels I have yet to be worthy of anything good. And listen, this is a key thing. Is I know we talk positivity and like, oh, kumbaya, mama say, masada, namaste, and that's all beautiful and stuff. But when it comes down to it, what is really going on inside? What are the real thoughts and ideas that are really creating our reality? So, like, if you think about this from a reflection standpoint, what past version of yourself are you still holding on to? If you want to take this stuff that I'm talking to you about and really integrate it, that's a big question to ask yourself. Is there a past version, or is there a past version or a part of you that was really dominant in the past that you're still holding on to? If so, man, it's time to unlock the gate, man. It's time to let you set yourself free from all that, right? And that's a big piece of it. Once we can identify that part of us that we want to let go of, or part of us that we're holding on to, and it doesn't have to, and it can be free of being something bad. So like, being transparent, for me, it's like I'm holding on to this concept of fatherhood. And that concept and that concept of father, like who, like in the past I thought I was supposed to be, has crippled me, because when I fail to make that version happen, that's when I start beating myself up, and I can start getting to the shame. Well, if I had done this different, if I had done this, I should have, ha, ha, ha. And then I start beating myself up because I'm in that loop, right? In that loop of self-accusation, self-defeat. So one of the key things, and to help us unlock the gates to our own prison, one of the first one that I really wanted to make sure I shared was something I shared in Heal.Thy.Man method as well. And that's about, in the book, I labeled it as acknowledge and bless. And basically what that is acknowledging and accepting the past. Like one of the most difficult things to do is to accept something, right? And people be like, hey, like usually when people like, I'm not gonna be free accepting this, or it's usually there's another part of the sentence that they have, like I'm gonna be free of accepting that I'm wrong, or that they're right, or blah blah blah. It's simply acceptance. Like it's acceptance that you're not the same person that you were before. Simply accepting that. And then honoring the past without letting it define you, because in reality, that part of you or that past helped you get to an evolved version of yourself now. If you didn't care about that past, it wouldn't have had an impact on you. The thing is that we look on that part of the past and we see it as like this defining moment, when really what it was just maybe just like fuel for, well, yeah, it was, in a way, it was a defining moment, but it wasn't something that makes you who you are. It was a defining moment in determining who you're becoming. There's a distinction there, right? So the way you can address this is by writing down 3 of the biggest lessons from your past has taught you. This will begin to transform guilt from shame. Like, listen, that's how I wrote Heal.Thy.Man. Like, I took everything that I took, what it was coming up for me that I was guilty about. What are the lessons I learned from these things? And that helped me to craft the messages that I put in the book. Now, another piece to this right here is also with that is part of it is changing the inner dialogue. So when I begin to change like how I'm speaking to myself, that begins to shift narratives, and that begins to unlock the self-judgment. Like if we were to really pay attention to how we're speaking to ourselves, we realize like we talk to ourselves like trash, man. It's actually disgusting. But every time an old thought comes up, what the key thing is, or like, hey, you stupid piece of, like, I told you they wouldn't love you, or blah, blah, blah. Start to think like, hey, would I talk to somebody that I care about that way? And that's a big piece, because if we could say, hey, I wouldn't talk to someone, now this begins to shift to a form of self-compassion, ways that we respond to that voice within ourselves in a much more healthy way. So rather than beat us up and keep us in a loop, it actually helps us to ascend. Now, another thing that I've been a fan of, and this is something I needed for this past time I experienced this, was getting out in nature. Like, I had a meltdown, and I needed to take personal time. Bless up to my team at work for covering me, but I needed to take personal time because I was holding, and a lot of those thoughts and like revelations were coming up all at once, and it was overwhelming. I just had to go out into a field and just sit. And this is the thing about that I loved about being out there, because there's a couple things I recognized. First, there was that feeling and sense that there's constant renewal. Like, even with every time I breathe, like it was like the wind started to change a different direction. As I just sat on this in this field and just watched things, there was constant change of who was coming into the field. Right? There's nothing that stayed static. So it helped me understand that natural part of life in itself. And then it was just it was great to be able to breathe and just sit down on the earth and just watch the sky. It was a peaceful place for me to really be. So my thing is, when you get into those spaces of, hey, I'm feeling this way, or I'm in this negative loop, get your behind outside, take a walk. One of the things which is a very powerful practice too, is if you want to use nature, like get a rock, like outline it, right? And then like draw what you're going to release with this rock, right? Draw out what you want to release, or maybe you get you paint on the rock and you just throw it into a river, you let it go. Sometimes letting go of something physically or spiritually is a game changer, or physically rather, and symbolically is a game changer. And it will shift energy in a way that you may not have ever known. And another piece here, which I want to make sure that we get across, is get in alignment with your purpose. This was something that I got to step into as well, was that when I went through this little breakdown, is I had to recognize, like, okay, I got to get back on my purpose. Because in the past, when these things come up, like when people bring up the past and then that triggers that guilt within me, like I'll tend to beat myself up and get off track. Whereas that's the perfect time to reconnect with my track, with my path, with my purpose. So, and it gets me to understand, like, listen, the path is not a punishment. It's really, in a way, it can be like a prep, like getting you ready for something. So instead of saying, like, one of my things is, like, when I hear one of my coachees or mentees say, hey, why does this always happen to me? Or even when I say this to myself, I immediately do the reframe and say, well, what are the reasons that this is here to help me? Like, how can this help me? Like, how is this shaping me? So that begins to take that breaking point and be able to maneuver it into a transformation point. And one of the things I mentioned here is, like, it's one of the best things, and I talk about this in one of my programs, is step into the arena, man. Like, and what the heck does that mean? It means really face yourself, challenge yourself, really rewire yourself so you're in the present and you're also looking more towards the future. So you can have this space of really addressing those patterns that are going to tend to come up in these random times and spaces in your life, and be able to address them in a different way. So who are you choosing to be? That's the key question if you're going to really look to step into the arena. If you want more information on that, you could DM me or put some comments in, or send me an email, or go to my website, which is www.Heal.Thy.Man.Method.com. You'll be able to check to get the book there. Also, you'll be able to learn more about my programs that are out right now that are here to help you out. So as we start to wrap up here, here's the thing that I'm going to ask you. What's one part of your past that you're ready to let go of today? What's one thing? What's one past scenario, situation that you're ready or willing to let go of? That's the piece. And as for the last thought, here's what I want you to think about, right? You don't have to wait for permission to be free. You don't. The lock to your prison is on the inside. The question is, are you ready to open the gate? Are you ready? That's the question. If you have any questions, you could comment, email, whatever works for you. Again, I'll put the website up, and pick up the copy of the book. And also stay tuned. Listen, stay tuned for more of these lives every Sunday. Today I'm a little late. I had some things this morning. But, like, hey, man, if something resonates with you, put it in the comments so we can start to have a conversation. More men can open up about these different topics. And also, listen, if there's something that you want me to talk more about, then, like, put that in the comments too. Like, share, subscribe. If you're a woman that's watching this, a man that can really benefit from this message, please share it with them. Let them see and let them know that there's different ways that they can address things that are going on in their life. I appreciate you all. Thank you. And your boy is out of here.